Welcome to the second, I believe this might be the first. Yeah, it's a first market analysis training of June. I'm super excited to cover today's training, not only because all of y'all are here. I appreciate each and every one of y'all's time to be here with me today. We got people tuning in from really all over. We got California, we got Memphis, um, we got Panama City. We got Charleston. We have, shoot, another California. We have Virginia. I know we got some Texas in here because I can see your faces. Um, Chicago. I mean, we're covering the U.S. right now. Maryland, we got Kevin in the house. We got multiple Kevins in the house, actually, all of which are in the Northeast, I'm pretty sure. Knoxville. Yeah, we're everywhere. Okay. Some of the things that we want to get out of this, A to Z, how to pull farm areas, get them into the CRM, mass emails and SMS. So you're an email. We've got emailing going on. So that's a unique strategy that some people are getting into. Craig's wants some more clarity on setting up filters, market analysis, implementation, and then send direct mail. Looking to figure out what list to stack from mail. Okay, we'll talk about that, the important parts of mail. Working in the suburbs of Chicago, learn more about how to use data sift and process first to market. So we'll get into first to market from a SIF map perspective. We're not going to talk about uploading first to market data or anything like that. But because of obituaries, especially because of obituaries, we can be first to market to the obituary niche, which means that you're first to market in, decedents, really, period. The most first to market you could possibly be. And then I also, once we set up our filter presets for the different counties and for things like that, I like to see first to market happen to the data between A and or the first a month and the 30th a month in between while we wait to send mail. If people are doing mail, so being first to market on your filters for AI data is actually a really cool strategy. A lot are doing right now, and it's working well. Um, and then add to knowledge base, best practices. Ziv, where are you located in Florida? Make sure you're not in one of my counties so I don't have to kick you out of here. Just kidding. Um, just kidding. Um, okay, looks like that's most everybody. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm Tyler Austin. I'm the CEO of Data Sift. I'm the prior founder of REI Sift prior to the merger. And so I my job is to make sure you guys understand and have a deeper knowledge about the intricacies of how to do certain things in the platform. We have the challenge that we do. We have other trainings that we have. Some of those are a little bit higher level. I would consider the 5 day deal flow challenge to be as detailed as it is when it comes to using Claude and things like that from a data sift perspective. I would actually consider it more higher level because we don't really get deep into creating filters and the nuances around it in that challenge. We give resources for it, but we really don't have open dialogue for a long period in time for that because it's 5 days long. We only got so much time in the day, and there's a whole business to teach. And so we do these extra trainings like this where we're live. We talk about very specific topics so we can get into those for 2 or 3 hours each. We ask questions, we post the recording. So if people want to go through and watch those recordings in those different areas, they can. All right. I run my own real estate business as well. I actually partnered with one of the users now. He had his own business about 3 years ago. He started using DataSift, had a lot of success. It was REI Sift back then. He had a lot of success. He came to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm marketing in Florida. You own Florida Cash Real Estate. What do you want to do?" And so we actually partnered together. We do between 8 and 10 deals a month. It kind of depends. We gather 10 leads a day just from first to market alone with 2 callers. And so when I give this training and I'm talking about these different things, you got to take my faith, have faith in my words that what I'm talking about I know works because we do it every single day. In addition to that, obviously, I educate and I do one-on-ones with a lot of customers, especially our concierge AI users. about their businesses and how they can improve it. So I'm taking all of this information, all this knowledge, I'm seeing what's working, and I'm putting it together in these, which is why we do it every 2 weeks so that we can, give these updates. Okay. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the standard kind of flow of things on how we do market analysis utilizing the SIFT platform. I'm going to use AI on the sidelines to run a market analysis on that same market, and I'm gonna use that report to kind of show you guys how what we come up with gets pretty close. But if you do adopt using Claude and other tools in your business, you can actually get a little bit even closer because of extra information you can bring in that our brains just can't juggle all that at once. So it'll be pretty fun, pretty exciting. I need was it Craig? I need you to post the county that you mentioned again real fast for me, if you don't mind. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. I'm going to show you guys what I do whenever I'm going to do a market analysis off the rip here. And then I want you to put your account email. If you want to DM it to me, that's fine too. But put your account email in the chat as well. I do have a Sacramento already that I've done. I'm pretty sure this is a recording for Sacramento. And Craig, are you a AI customer or not an AI customer? Pro, okay. Because I'm gonna link into your account, and I'm gonna run a market analysis, and I'm actually gonna have it create some filters in your account. So don't, but yeah, and I'll send you the report afterwards. So let me share. Okay, so I'm gonna start this off using Claude here. I want to preface this to make sure everybody understands. I know that we show Claude a lot as a company nowadays, and this is because the world is going towards this direction. And as business owners, only like 0.05%, like less than 0.5% of business people are utilizing AI right now inside of their businesses. All the big businesses are doing it, and they're paying an astronomical amount of money for people to come in and set it up inside of their businesses. I do not believe AI in the way that we do business as real estate professionals is the source of unlocking everything everywhere. Like I just don't believe that. I think in our world, you have OGs in this game that have been, I mean, since the dawn of time, since there's a human that's had a house or even has land that they claimed, there has been somebody that's been controlling that land and then using it to their advantage to produce wealth in their life. And only in the last, let's just say 15 to 20 years on the high end has technology been a piece of that. So it's a very, very, very small amount of the big picture. So I believe that operations, consistency, understanding is a much larger piece of the equation. And what's really beautiful about AI and then the SIFT platform combined is it gives us all the data and it allows us to take our understanding and put it into words in order to get output to make business decisions. But without all of the other stuff, like you still won't be successful. Just because you download Claude and you do this prompt does not mean you're going to be closing a ton of deals, right? It requires everything else. And so we're teaching these things and we're using these things so that we can remove the barrier of the 2026 YouTube and IGO algorithm from causing distraction and making you go out thinking that there's another better solution, because we're giving it all in one place and allowing you to tighten up those operations by utilizing AI. That's why the 5-day deal flow challenge is in fact really Claude heavy, and it teaches a lot of these things because you can do a lot with a little. And another really big thing that we focus on here at DataSift is making sure that we're spending the least amount of money to produce the highest amount of revenue, right? That's our ultimate goal. And then scale on top of that. Doesn't mean we don't want you to become multiple 7-figure businesses. It means that we want to make sure we're doing it in the right way. and retaining as much as we can, because the beautiful thing about real estate is it can change your life very quickly, but it can also ruin your life just as fast if you're not smart. Okay. All right. So I'm going to prompt this. I'm going to use dictation. And I'm going to say, wait, I forgot the name of the county. Let me look. And I want you to run a market analysis for them in Lake County, Indiana. And I want to go ahead and run the concierge for this client. Make sure you look at their account and see that they are, in fact, what their account plan is, so that you can use the right features when doing the phase 2 of the concierge. I do not have any closed deals or any leads generated from this customer, so just skip that portion of it and get to the market analysis and creating the presets inside of their account in SIFMAP in the records page. And so I spent a ton of time, and I mean like many nights, many nights, taking my brain and putting it into a process and then building, one of our concierge agents that we use here. And so I'm going to run that and let that, while that runs, we're going to go ahead and do it manually, which I still do all the time for a lot of customers. But I wanted to show you guys kind of some of the behind the scenes on how we can expedite things, and then we'll compare it. Okay. Starting off, getting into market analysis and running how any user, no matter what plan, you have access to the tools to do what I'm about to show, right? You don't need Claude, you don't need any of that stuff. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to open up a notepad. And this is just how I do this. I'm just showing you guys how I think about marketing. It's how I've always done it. It's how we do it in my own real estate business since day one. And to do that, I like to break it down from a high level of the county, base criteria, zip codes, neighborhoods. County, the base criteria, zip codes, neighborhoods, and then I take predictive AI data and distressors, and I look at how many records exist in each of these. Okay. Now, I want to make sure it's known, it's clear that if you don't want to do this fancy stuff, you could just literally go to SIFMAP and you could filter by your county. You could download the standard list that everybody pulls, absentee, high equity, in my county, download it and market to it, right? Like, this isn't like it wouldn't work. It's just like you're going to spend more money, and time and energy. Okay. So what I do is I open up a document here, like just a standard notepad. You can use pen and paper if you'd like. And I do base criteria. I just put that down. And if I spell anything wrong, don't judge me. Okay. So I do base criteria. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say county plus base. And then I do zip codes plus base. And a base criteria is like the standard characteristics. This would be, so I'm going to show you how to come up with what your base criteria is. But I'm just creating some bullet points. And NBs stands for neighborhoods, okay? I just want to know how many records exist inside of my county, my zip codes, and my neighborhoods with my base criteria. So it might be like, maybe there's 100K at the county level. Maybe if I go to the zip code level, there's only 30K or 35K. Maybe there's only 5K at the neighborhood level, right? And depending on my budget and the amount of marketing strategies I'm doing, this might mean that I'm going to send mail to all my neighborhoods, and I'm going to cold call all my zip codes, and then I'm going to use my base criteria because I'm going to take that and I'm going to do Facebook ads with it, right? With deep understanding comes the ability to manipulate. That's one of my Tylerisms, and it's led me good so far, and I recommend you guys adopt this into your life, right? Like, try to work to have the deep understanding about it, and this will allow us to be able to take $1 and put it out to the marketplace and get $10 back, right? So once I understand how many records exist in the base criteria and in just the geography, right? Then I like to start seeing, okay, well, what if we add AI score to the equation? So I'm just going to do base plus AI. And I just want to see if I was to market to 40 plus AI scores in that same county with the same base criteria, does it go from like 100,000 records down to say 40,000 records? Right? Because if it does, and the AI score has good predictability in that county, then it means I can save 60% of my marketing costs and I can cold call 40,000 people instead of 100,000 people and get in front of 80% of the people that would sell. Right. And so the economies of scale work really well in my favor. Right. So just as an example, we'll dig deeper into that, but we do the base county plus AI. And then what you could do is for those that aren't AI, you could do base county plus a single distressor, right? Or something like this. And we'll dig into that, and every county is different, right? So you can do your county at a base level plus your distress. Once we start getting into our market finder and we're looking at where opportunity is, what you'll realize is you pretty much never want to do straight all of your county. Like, unless you're doing first to market marketing, I don't care about the county. Because I would say 60% of any county is places you don't want to spend money getting in front of, because it's not an area that's having the turnover that's needed to build a consistent business. You might get one every now and again, but you don't want to take 30% of your marketing budget and put it in areas that you're not going to get revenue from, when you can take that same 30% and divert it into another marketing channel in an area, that county, that's going to yield a better return. Right? And so most of the time, I would highly recommend being top zip codes, top zips, plus your base, plus AI, or some other form of distressor. Okay. And again, we're going to be filling out all this information, but I just want to make sure that we understand why we're doing it. Okay. So it's top zip codes plus your base criteria. You never want to get rid of your base criteria. Your base criteria is kind of like your golden metric. Sometimes you can expand upon your base criteria, but it's really pretty core to every single record that you pull in your business. All right. And then, so yeah, let's just leave it at this for now. We'll keep it here. We might add to this, but again, the important thing to understand here is to visualize clearly how many marketable records exist inside the county in these different areas, and then how does it change as we add more farm criteria, if you will, to the parameter. The best way I can explain this in another way would be, if I'm buying a piece of land to build a McDonald's on, which I would never personally ever do in my life, but if I did, I wouldn't just put it in a random corner, right? In fact, McDonald's wouldn't let me do that. What I would have to do is I would have to figure out how many people drive past that location. What is the avatar of people that drive past that location? I'd have to figure out my demographics and my total marketable individuals, right? And this would determine how much traffic on average, based on what we know about the business, will pull through the drive-through and buy some sugar biscuits, or whatever. I guess that's more of a donut shop than a McDonald's, but you get it, right? Like, we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it as real estate investors. We're taking marketing principles that every marketing people do. Even we do this at SIF. We don't just randomly run ads. We try to figure out what is a total marketable audience and how do we get in front of the segments that we care about, that are highest likelihood to do business with me. You're doing the same exact thing here, okay? So keep this in the back of your mind. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, I'm going to pop it over there. I'm going to put this over here. We're going to zoom over to the right so we can have that there. And we're going to start now filtering by this and figuring out how many records exist inside of, was it Lake County? Lake County, Indiana. All right. So I'm going to go to Market Finder. Let me zoom in here. Actually, let me go through the side, just the side bar here real quick so everyone knows what everything does here. I'm going to go very brief because most of you probably do. SIFline is basically Kanban board, okay? SIFline is where you can put information. If you want to know more about SIFline, attend the lead management training, right? It's predominantly used in lead management, deep prospecting, and things like that. Your default build comes with it. We talk about it a lot more in the lead management training, so focus there. Or SIFline. SIFmap is where we can see nationwide property, data. Like I can type Lake County and it's going to take me to, let's just try Lake County. What was this locate? Indiana. So right here. So we go to Lake County, Indiana, and boom, there we go. We got 243,000 records, period, in Lake County, Indiana, right? So I can add another criteria here just for the funsies of it. I can say total county, right? And I can do 243K, right? That way I can just keep this in the back of my mind. Because the truth is, in business, we need a certain amount of records no matter what to get deals. Like, I don't care how first to market you are. In order to have volume and consistent deals, I need enough marketable people. Because at a certain point, if I don't have enough marketable people to reach out to, the delta between the time that I can just do marketing and the time that I have to get in the deep prospecting happens way faster, right? And so that means that, let's just say I was pulling 10,000 records a month and I had 2 VAs, right? And I followed that traditional model, right? And I got 200, let's assume all 243,000. Let's say it's 250,000 for simple numbers. If I did 20,000 records a month for VAs at 250,000 divided by 20,000, that's 12 months. That means I have 12 months in my business before I'd have to figure out how to be a marketer. Because I could just call through 20,000 records a month and generate leads. And then in 12 months from now, I'd be like, well, do I remarket to who? Right? And this is what this is solving. This is solving the problem of you not understanding how to go find data and not understanding data in general so we can make better decisions. It's not to say that you don't give a VA 10,000 records. It's to understand that if you go on the model of only polling 10,000 records per VA because the cold calling agency told you to do that, you have a half-life in your business. If you're a science nerd, right? You know that every month your business is getting closer to hitting a breaking stop point because you don't know how to fully market. Direct mail has some leniency on this because direct mail is going to the door box and you can be a little bit more consistent. You can send the same mail pieces of 250,000 mail pieces a month for 12 months, 14 months, 18 months. And you're going to, because of the volume, because you're getting in the door box, like you're going to relatively have consistency. It's going to be not very profitable, but it's going to have a lot of output, right? And input back, right? So you got to be very careful of that. Same thing with TV, same thing with like Facebook ads. Some of these strategies you can do and they have less of a half-life because the whole point of them is that you always do them. But it's very expensive. It's really hard to get into that. And so what we want to do is we want to understand with our budget, how do we decide who the best people are to send mail to, who the best people are to cold call. Sometimes those are the same people, but I can't maybe afford to send direct mail to all 250,000, but I can send direct mail to 3,000 or 2,000 or 1,000. So who are the right people so that I can put a little bit out there to have the highest return back? Okay. All right. So SIFmap. Market Finder. Market Finder is where we can go into any location and figure out where are the investors finding opportunity. Okay. And so if I go to Indiana and then Lake County, Indiana, I can visualize, I'm filtering by the investor transactions. I can see where's the consolidation of investor activity happening, which allows me then to not market, for example, to 36356 until I've fully marketed in 46408, right? But you cannot take this at like face value all the time because maybe 46408 sales price is just terrible, and it's not an area that I would want to do deals in because maybe it's only land and maybe the data is not too great there, compared to looking at 46410, it looks to be a little bit better price point, and I can make a better plan around here. Just because there's a lot of investor transactions somewhere doesn't it mean that it's the type of investor transactions you do. Okay, difference between the two, difference between your type of transactions and their type of transactions. So we got to do a little bit more work to understand that, but we have at least the understanding of what's there. Okay, sold properties. I'm just going to open up new tabs here so that we can just reutilize these tabs. Let me turn on sensitivity mode again. Sold properties is our ability to figure out what is the investors buying in that area. What are they finding value in is the way I express this. So Market Finder is where is it that they're finding value. Sold properties is what are they finding value in, and how can I then use that information to build out a better base criteria to get in front of the deals that people are buying, or rather, in a better phrasing, how do I get in front of the people that are selling by looking at the deals that people are buying? So I'm reverse engineering other people's success to make sure I'm successful. The biggest thing that I get when I mention this is, well, Tyler, if I'm only marketing where everybody else is marketing, isn't that competition? And my response to that is, yes, obviously, but I don't care where you go. You have two options. Either you market where there's competition, which means there's volume, which means there's money to be made, or you go where nobody's at and there's nobody selling and there's no buyers, and that's only okay if you're trying to build a rental portfolio. Because if nobody's buying there and properties aren't selling, and you just go there and you're spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a month on marketing, like all you're doing is building brand authority in an area that doesn't care that you exist. Okay, so you got to be very smart with the way that you market, because you got to make sure that you're not spending money in areas that don't matter. So yes, you want competition. The answer is to be smarter than your competition, which you guys are already doing that by being here, right? So trust me, competition is good. I'm in the hottest markets in Florida. I'm in Duval County, Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, Orange County, Pensacola, which is Escambia County, Pasco County. And we lose deals all the time. But guess what? We get deals that nobody else gets too, you know? And the only reason we lose deals is because we're not doing the really expensive market. We might only spend $7,000 a month on our whole team, right? And we do, again, 8 to 10 deals a month, 10 leads a day. All of that cost is in people, 2 VAs, 2 data managers, or 2 cold callers, 2 data managers. We call them prospectors, 2 prospectors, 2 data managers. We just got rid of actually 2 of those people. Actually, we got rid of a data manager, brought a new data manager in, and then we got rid of an admin person. And so we actually only have 2 cold callers, acquisitions, dispositions, me and Quentin right now. And then we're hiring another data person. So nonetheless, it's like, I think 7 people, right? And so that cost of $7,000 is because you're paying, people, VAs, remote team members. So you can do a lot of volume with a little bit. And we're at the point in business because I've been doing first to market since before we did a first market challenge, right? And so I have a unique advantage in that. I have that process really dialed in for years now. And now I'm adding in my AI components and the things that we talk about here, right? Well, we've actually already started doing that as of about a month and a half ago. So anyway, okay, records page is where you interact with all your data. This is basically, I didn't mean to do dark mode. If you guys don't know, we have a dark mode. There's dark mode. This is where you filter and download and manage and have fun with all your data. Okay, I'll keep it at that for now. Phone book, I'm not going to get into that. Lists, There is some confusion a little bit about lists, so I'll talk about it briefly. Lists are an identifier of a situation that's on a record. Like, okay, it's probate. Okay, it's under heirs. It's under foreclosures. It's for evictions. It's a $100 list. It's high equity. It's bankruptcy. It's whatever, right? What is that highest level thing? That is your lists. When you upload data into SIFT, you can create a list name, but it's going to add any system list that we have based upon your plan. When you download from SIFMap, if we just grab a random record real quick, let's just go to this one and open up in SIFMap. If we look at the list page here, you see it says absentee high equity. If I download this record right now, what are the chances that I opened one up that I lost a deal on? I don't use this account actively no more, but look, this is follow-up. This is all the stressors that were on it. And it sold. Kind of crazy. Now it's just an absentee owner high equity. And those lists would be added. So if it was to be, instead of a single address, if it was to be, I'm sorry, instead of being just like, let's do this. Let me just do stacked. If I was to download any of these these addresses here, let's do single family, it would end up having bad credit and low income on it, right? So it would download all of those. It'd be owner occupied, low income, bad credit. So it would add those lists to the account for me. Okay. So just so we understand. So like right now, look, it's only on my 10+ year ownership list. If I was to download this, if I add it to my account, I don't need to add lists here because it's going to add them automatically. So if I add that to that in this, once that finishes adding those, there you go. It's got low credit score, low income, owner occupied on here. Right? So those lists are being added automatically, and it's also enriching all your additional info. The AI score there is only a 35, 18, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So just keep that in the back of my mind as well. The rest of this stuff I don't care about right now for this training. Okay. So let's move into more of the market analysis. All right. All right. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to turn off dark mode here because I think it's easier to share a screen off of dark mode. Let's build out our base criteria in Indiana, Lake County. So I am filtered by Indiana. I'm filtered by Lake County, and I'm not selecting any zip codes or neighborhoods right now, but I am going to, on the select property tab up here, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm doing single family mobile home townhouses. I could also do multifamily residential, but oftentimes I don't want to include this here because it can skew my flipping and stuff. If I'm specifically focused on that, sure. But most of us, if my recommendation would be, is if you're going to market the multifamily residential, duplex, triplex, and quads, don't wholesale them, buy them. Okay, so for the sake of this training, I want to show you guys how to find flips and find wholesale deals so that you can not have a reason why you're not buying the multifamily. Okay, so Indiana, Lake County, and I'm filtering out it by suppressing down the just single family mobile homes townhouses. What you'll notice is that changes my numbers a little bit. So some of these colors changed on where the focus was because now I'm adding in only that. So we're getting rid of that land. Land skews your numbers a bit, right? So you got to be careful with land. So we don't want to leave that in there. Okay. All right. So once we do that, we now have all of our data how we want it to be. And I'm going to look at my medium home value. How many homes are on the market right now? I'm just going to get a lay of the land for the amount of monthly investor transactions, and then the home sold last month. Okay. I'm going to look down at my home prices. I want to get an idea of the range of the values in that market, right? So we know that 272 is the median, which means that there must be properties that are worth more and there must be properties that are worth less, right? Pretty obvious there. But what we don't want to do is market to only the top of that threshold and the bottom of the threshold, right? We want to be in the middle of that threshold. I used to do 60%. I have recently, over the last month and a half, adjusted this to an 80%. So we get rid of the bottom 20% and the top 20%. And so if we just look at that you know, we got 3.5 and 5.2, and then we got a little bit of this 23%. So if we were to try to add up to 20%, it would mean that, you know, we would probably focus on $150,000 properties up to, let's just say 20. Actually, let me see real quick. So we got, yeah, it'd be about $150,000 properties up to about 475,000, probably somewhere in there, right? And so we'd grab that criteria. So I'm just going to kind of put that in here as a number, and we might adjust this again once we look at our sold properties. We might adjust this a little bit, but I'm going to go between, let's say, 150 to 450K AVM. So that's after, that's like your estimated value. Okay. Then I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm just going to see predominantly single family. There's basically no mobile homes here. So I'm just going to say that we're only going to do single family residences. Okay. And which means I can just remove these two here, and I can just do single family. Okay. Numbers barely change at all. All right. So we're going to say single family residence only, 150 to 450,000 in value. All right. Beds and baths, I don't care about this. I don't filter down by it. I leave it open because what I've noticed just by dealing with a lot of customers, running a lot of, you know, reports against closed transactions, beds and bath data just isn't uniform enough to care about it as a metric when pulling my data. If I'm focusing down in locations, it's going to automatically work its way out. The only thing that I would do is add, if I was trying to focus on a bed and bath size, I would instead focus on a square footage of heated square footage count. Don't worry about bed and baths. It changes anyway. If a property's been in business, if a property's been built, you know, for the last 50 years, then most likely there's probably something that has changed when it comes to beds and baths potentially anyway, and depending on your market. Like in my markets, if I have a property from 1960 that was, say, 1,000 square foot and it's showing 2-bedroom, 1-bath, there's a huge chance that they converted something to add a 3rd bedroom or a 2nd bathroom. And so I just don't care about it. So just don't worry about beds and baths. I do care about year built though. My general recommendation is that for year built, we at least give it 12 to 15 years in age. So I always tell people just do 15 years and then expand upward if you need to. Many markets you can see in their market, it's 20 or 2000 and newer is 20%. They got a lot of old properties there. You know, 16% is 1939 and older, which is a lot. You know, when you consider the total marketable properties is 243,000, you know, that's a fair chunk of old properties. And so I would say 2010 and older is plenty to get opportunity in that market. Okay. The zip codes themselves, when we start looking at where the investor activity is, it's going to essentially dictate that anyway. But what you want to be careful of inside of areas that have high investor activity, if there's new construction stuff going on, you don't want to not put any year requirement, because then you're going to accidentally market to people that just built their house in the last couple of years, right? And you don't want to do that. Okay, so we'll say 2010 and older as our base criteria there. And then minimum equity, I don't really worry about equity right now. This is actually a big change since a few of the market analysis. I'm not adding any equity parameter to the equation. I'm just doing a years of ownership of 7+ years. Okay. The downfall to this is one scenario, 7+ years ownership. And what I do is I do a split test and I look to see how many people have less than, I basically check less than 30% equity and 7+, right? So basically what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, I want 7 years of ownership, but one of the downfalls of this, if I'm not adding an equity parameter, is that I'm losing the equity check. And so I'm just saying, hey, if it has 7+ years of ownership, let's just see if that is, I don't know, let's say it's 20,000 properties, but only like 1,000 of them have less than 30% equity, then I don't care, right? Because most of the time, if it's like 20 or 25% equity, I'm going to be able to do a deal anyway. So I don't necessarily care. But there is two things that we care about here. We always want to remember it's unknown sale date and it's unknown equity. The reason why I do 7+ years of ownership and not add the percentage as like the main reason is because I want the records that have unknown equity. If you do go to a map and you add 30% equity plus 5 years of ownership, you're eliminating anybody with unknown equity. And in my analysis, unknown equity is a very, very, very great list to have. And so I used to send direct mail to unknown equity and unknown sale date a lot when I first started. And it was a great list because a lot of people weren't pulling that data. And so this is the easiest way to add that data in here without losing opportunity. If it's too much records, then just do 5 years and 30% equity requirement, right? A lot of this has to deal with, this base criteria is what kind of fits the amount of records that you're looking for and how much money you have to market to them, okay? Now, because I mentioned unknown sale date here, I would be doing you a disjustice if I did not tell you that by adding a years of ownership, you are missing all of the records that do have an unknown sale date. So what we want to do is we want to check this real quick for this county because it's all county dependent. And again, this is where with deep understanding comes the ability to manipulate. Because the truth is, like, some of our bigger customers, they don't care. They just say, give me all properties like in this area. But they're sending a lot of direct mail. They have big teams, and it's not realistic for everybody. Like, they want unknown sale date, unknown equity, everything with high equity. They just want all of it. And I don't think, like, I know for a fact that that's not needed to build a 7-figure business. And so I don't feel like it's something that you guys should worry about or care about right now, to have all of it. But I do want to know what's going on in my county, because if I at least do the filter, this will at least tell me where my opportunity to grow is. See, a lot of people, they start going into another county, but it's because they don't realize that there's another 50,000 records that exist, or 20,000 records, or even 5,000 records that exist in a very hot area. And it's just because it doesn't match the filter criteria that you've been doing in whatever data provider you're using. And no data provider really educates like what I'm educating right now. That's not their thing, but it is our thing. So I'm going to filter. I'm just going to build this base criteria here.
You're using this through Claude, right?
I am inside of DataSift right now. On my screen right now, I'm inside of DataSift. Yeah. The thing I did in Claude earlier was me running a market analysis for this. While I've been teaching you guys, it already did this for me. It's finished. It's already done, built it, and it created filters in his account, right? Like, so that's why I do this, because if we get to the point where, like, I'm trying to teach you all the things that I had to teach Claude to be able to do the thing it does, because I don't want you guys to have to rely on Claude. I want you guys to understand the what and the why behind the how, right? Because I find like that's way more valuable to you than anything else. Is like, if you were to never use Sift again, did you at least come out with better knowledge than you ever had before? And so Claude already went through, found the total amount of properties in every location. And ironically, check this out. Lake County's primary preset, 125 to 475,000 in value. So I was pretty close, 150 to 450, but it got to 125. 7 years of tenure, single family, MLS not listed. So it created some filters for him. It created the recently sold list. Now he's on the professional plan, so it did not add the auto ad. um, which is a big thing. So over time, I think that you want to work to try to get up to have access to that. But we'll cover his account then maybe if we have time. But what it did is it built this. I'll just show you. I'll just show you guys.
And
It
you
built it.
uploaded the list from DataSift into Claude, and Claude kind of filtered it.
No, this is me. No, no, no. This is Claude is doing everything that I'm teaching you right now. Like it's using Market Finder, it's using sold properties, it's using SIFMap, and it's running because I'm linked with an API in my Claude to do those things. And so everything I'm teaching you at this very moment, I taught Claude the same thing. I gave it every market analysis that I've done. Like I've given it these trainings that I'm giving to you right now. And then I tweaked it and I improved upon it. And so in my Claude, you guys can't do this in the same way right now. You will once we release our open API. But right now you can't do this. And so what I did is because I wanted to be able to have everything ready for once I get done teaching you, I want to be able to open up what Claude did so we can validate that what I taught you was accurate so that I can show you that you can do this by yourself, but over time we can use Claude to do it. But Claude is linking with an API. It's doing a bunch of stuff, and it built basically a report. So I'll show you. This is what we do for our concierge clients, our AI customers, except for this, it's a little bit deeper in it. So if I open up the market analysis, you can see Claude, I trained it to build me this executive summary of how many active investor transactions happened, what the value ranges of that market. So this is basically an analysis of his market now, and I'll give this to him basically. So during these market analysis trainings, I like to try to get one of these in. And the other thing it did is it created a workbook for Lake County. This is what we're about to get into inside of SIFT, but Claude built a workbook for it. So here's your estimated value range. Here's the top neighborhoods. Here's your top zip codes. And also a cool thing that I do is I use our SIFMap investor transactions and I pull down a list of all the top buyers. So Preferred Homes LLC did 61 wholesales, 17 wholesales, 12 flips pending right now, 10 rentals pending right now, 10 flips. Here's the top buying zip codes that they're buying in. Here's the top neighborhoods they're buying in. And so you can literally come in here then and say, hey, I want to try to find deals. I'm going to contact Preferred Homes. I'm going to see what they're interested in. And I'm going to go market in these locations and try to funnel deals just to him. Because as a wholesaler, it kind of makes it a little bit easier if you know that's their buy criteria. This is what they're willing to pay. I can just go out and find someone who's willing to sell their house for that. And it kind of turns, it's like reverse wholesaling, but you do it in the top of your marketing funnel rather than later. So anyway, this is what this export looks like. We'll get into that later. But Claude, yeah, just ignore Claude right now at this very moment. Claude is just somebody who learned exactly what I'm teaching right now and can be told to do it at any time of the day because it's AI. Okay. So I'm filtering in SIFT now between 150 and 470. In fact, let's just update it to what Claude suggested based on the market analysis. We'll apply that. By the way, there's a special reason why Claude was a little bit different, and it's because what my Claude agent does. I don't want to confuse this when I say this, but when we look at Market Finder and we look at our top locations that investor activity is happening in, which we haven't picked our zip codes yet, right? Right now, we're still trying to build our base criteria to make sure we have a really solid base criteria, because in some markets, your base criteria alone may only be 10,000 records, right? And so it's better just to market all 10,000 because you need the volume. Right. And so it's really important to hone in your base criteria. But what happens is when you look at this, like this range of percentage of properties, what you can't see from here necessarily is how does that correlate with the zip codes and neighborhoods and investor transactions. I just know that this market's value ranges are between this range, right? And if I look at some of this investor transactions, I see like 46410, the median sales price, if you look at the bottom left there in the map, is 223,000 in value. But if you look at it from a neighborhood level, you'll see that some of these, most of those areas are around the same. So in this case, it's not that big of a deal. But this one right here, this little neighborhood here is like median sales price only 41,000, right? And so, you gotta be, I don't really know how to explain it. It took a while for me to debug and figure out the best way to come up with my criteria for my agent. So, this gets you close enough. It doesn't really matter. So let's just focus on that. So 125,000, 475,000 in value. Click apply. I'm not going to apply beds and bath. I'm going to go ahead and do just single family residences. And then I'm going to do 2010 and older on the year built. So I'm clicking more filters, year built, 2010. And then I'm going to apply the 7 years of ownership. So I'm going to scroll down to the owner details, years of ownership minimum 7. I'm going to scroll down to the MLS filters and say not listed. And then I'm going to click apply. And so I'm going to remove that since we already talked about it. I'm going to kind of draw a little line here so we know that that's our base criteria. And this is 40K records. Okay. In fact, we put it right here, 40K. All right. So with our standard base criteria here, inside of Lake County, Indiana, our base criteria is 40,000 records marketable. Okay. Now, does that mean that I can't market to, say, people that have 500,000 in value and up? Say like 500,000 to 1.5 million even. Does that mean I can't market to those people? There's 5,000 of them. No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that mostly all of my marketing budget should be inside of the 125,000 to 475,000, because that's where most of the actual investor activity is going to be happening, right? I can still market to those other 5,000 people, but obviously, unless I was only doing luxury builds, because a 500,000 plus home in this market, it would be luxury, right? And so I'm only going to market and do those deals because of a certain bit of my marketing budget going specifically to a targeted neighborhood or targeted zip code, like a farm area, truly. Okay. So now we know there's 40,000 base criteria, but let's just look to see real fast, how many would it be if we had an unknown sale date, right? Let's even pull this up here like this, and we'll just go like this. Okay. So what if we do unknown sale date only? So if we're going to do unknown sale date, then we can't have years of ownership, right? So we're going to remove years of ownership. I'm going to go down. I'm going to click on unknown last sale date under the pro details here. For him, it doesn't matter because you don't have access to the pro anyway. Look at that. There's 44,000 without an unknown sale date. Now, if you're going to do unknown sale date, then you do want to add an equity requirement, because it could be a mixture. So we'll say at least 30%. And it's still 43,000 records. That's a lot, right? I'm sorry, it's 43 up here. 43,000 records have unknown sale date. Now, why is that the case? Because the county sucks at what they do and they don't give data properly, Also, it could be because a really big reason why unknown sale date happens is that people bought the land decades and decades ago and they built the house themselves, not physically, but they hired someone to build the house. And so there wasn't a transaction yet. Okay. Like there has not been a transaction from the person that bought the land and built the house and another individual, which causes the an unknown sale date, which tells me that there's probably a massive senior ownership rate here, is my assumption. That's just me assuming based off of, just my experiences. I don't know that, but we can validate that. Okay. So now let's do unknown equity. To do unknown equity, what we do is we just remove our equity percentage and we just toggle the unknown equity here. And I will say this, we are updating this right now to where if you want to do an equity percentage, this unknown equity checkbox is going to be below here so that you can do both unknown equity and known equity in the same filter, which will be so nice. So I'm going to click apply. And look, for unknown equity, there's only 1,700 total. Let's just put 2K, right? So that's why for the 7 years of ownership, in this case, in his market, most likely with his budget, 40,000 is totally okay to start with. But once he gets some deals under and he's wanting more marketable properties, adding unknown last sale date is a clear as day win because it's going to add another, double the amount of properties to market to, right? Compared to, he may think that there's no more deals there, but it's just because he didn't know that that was a bucket that existed in his market. Okay. And so really looking at that is very useful. Okay. So let's do one more check. And I want to do the 7 years of ownership thing I told you guys about. So we'll do 7 years of ownership. And then I'm just going to see how many of these records have less than 29% equity. It's only 1,000 out of 40,000, right? So to me, the unknown equity was 1,700. And the less than 29% is only 1,000. What can I not do a deal in? I cannot do it. There's nothing that I couldn't do a deal in unless there's reverse equity or something, but there's always a solution. But let's just say it has less than 10% equity. 273. Like I can list the property for that. I'm an agent, so I would be fine marketing to those people. So to me, because unknown equity is 2,000 records, and people with less than 29% equity is only 1,000, I would stick with doing 7 years of ownership. Okay. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand what I did there? I want to make sure. Let's pause for a second and understand coming up with in unknown equity, unknown sale date, years of ownership, AVMs. Do we understand the general concept here of we're looking at what is the value range inside that market? We're then looking at the age of properties in that market. We're putting the minimum to 15 years at least of ownership. We do this because we want to make sure that there's at least a roof that needs replaced or some other CapEx. I need CapExes at minimum to be needed because this is what makes a lot of people need to sell to investors because they can't they can't do that. If they didn't do their roof and they didn't do their AC and then they didn't do their hot water heater, there's a higher likelihood that they didn't do their floors or their kitchen or these other things that make it to where a property would need to be listed. Okay. Or need to be investor.
Sometimes the equity is kind of lower than it should be. By the way, what do you mean by unknown equity?
So unknown equity is the there is no equity known. It's it's a hard question to answer. So let me show you visually here. So if I was to remove, or actually I can just keep my 7 years of ownership and then do unknown equity checkbox here and then click apply. You see 513 of them have owned it for more than 7 years and have unknown equity. You see how the equity here is unknown? It's because even though we have a mortgage history and we have a sales date, for whatever reason, we can't quantify what the equity percentage is. Like we don't have the equity number. And I will say this, during COVID, we removed equity, period, because things were appreciating so fast that something that had 20% equity now had 40% equity in some areas, you know? And so using equity was not a great barometer on could we do a deal or not. Because the only reason we filter by equity as investors is because we're trying to make sure there's enough margin in the property for us to be able to obviously pay closing costs, do rehab, and do all the things we need to still make a profit. And so we're just making sure that we people do like 5 years of ownership and 30% equity. 5 years of ownership, the reason we do that is because we assume that nobody wants to sell their house after only owning it for 2 years. So we just want a little bit of age. And then the equity parameter to make sure that obviously we can make a deal happen. What I found is that if you just do 7 years of ownership, you're covering both scenarios where they've lived in there long enough where they're going to sell their house. The national average length of ownership nowadays is, I think, only around 5 years of ownership. It's very low for how long somebody owns a home. And so 7 years is a good amount of time where if they bought the home 7 years ago, they're going to have equity unless they pulled some sort of credit line out. And as we've seen here in the math that we just did, of the 40,000 records that have over 7 years of ownership, only 1,000 of them had less than 30% equity, and only 250 of them had less than 10%. And so it signified that let's simplify our base criteria by just saying 7+ years of ownership, right? And so we basically have two base list potentials here in Lake County. We have our 7 years of ownership and our unknown sale date. So what I would do if I was in his account right now is I would save this as a filter. So let me just, and I'm just going to do it in this account to show this. I'm going to click apply at the 7 years of ownership. I'm going to save this as a filter, and I'm going to call it Lake County 7+ years base list, right? So I'm just going to call it my base list. I'm just going to confirm it so that I can easily filter by it later, okay? And then I do the same thing. I'd remove my years of ownership. I would add my minimum equity requirement, and then I'm going to add my unknown sale date. Click apply. And then that gives me my other 43,000 records. I'm going to save that filter, and I'm going to do Lake County unknown sale date base list. Okay, and so now I have both these. So if I ever leave this map and come back, I can just click on my 7 years of ownership or my unknown sale date with equity, and I got a total now marketable properties across the whole county of basically 84,000 records. Does that make sense, Greg?
Total sense. Total sense.
Okay. All right. So right now, you should only really worry about the 40,000 base. I wouldn't worry about the unknown sale date. But that may change when we start looking at sold properties, right? If we have a lot of sold properties that have unknown sale date, type stuff on it. Actually, I don't think we have that as a parameter. I should add that. I don't think I have unknown sale. No, we might. I'll have to look. I actually don't remember. But we'll look. That'd be a good one to know how many sold. We can cross check it in another way. But for now, we won't worry about it. Okay, so now that we have that, the next thing that we want to do, we have our base criteria now. We know that 7 years of ownership, 2010 and older, single family residences between 125 and 475,000 in value. That is like our base. We attach it to everything. Every list we pull, we have that as our base because it's there. Kylie, can you add Lake County as an AI score in my account, please, if you don't mind? To make it faster, if you're there.
Yep, I'm
So
here.
now
One
we're
second.
You're good. Take your time. I'm not going to need it right this moment. What we're going to do now is we're going to build out which zip codes matter, okay? Because we want to understand now what is the right zip codes, because 40,000 records, I mean, I could go cold call through all those, but I want to try to get in front of the best locations first, and I want to reduce this down to like the top 5,000 records, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the area and figure out which zip codes have the most opportunity. And thankfully, there's not a ton of zip codes here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at our $125,000 to $475,000 in value, and we're already filtered by single families in SIFMAP, or I'm sorry, in Market Finder. And we're going to look at the first of areas that have the darker colors, right? But just because it has dark colors, like in this case, it says 111 investor transactions, but it says median sales price 1,000. Now, that is most likely wrong as far as the median sales price. There's something going on there with the data in that zip code, or it could be a lot of auction stuff. Who really knows? There's something there that's happening in those zip codes that causes uncertainty or lack of confidence is what I'll say. And so I would want to look at that better inside of SIFMAP. For now, I'm going to stick with the areas that I can tell have activity going on. Okay, and so 46410 clearly looks great. And so if I look at 46410 on my bottom map here, it's right here in this table. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 5th zip code in the row. It's got 66 investor transactions, and that's over 6 months. So if you go 66 divided by 6, it gives us 11 transactions a month. That's a lot of transactions going on in that area. That's plenty of opportunity to get deals out of. The other thing I want to look at is the homes sold last month or the homes on market. Okay, and I want to understand my demand. So if I go to 54 divided by 158, that gives me basically, 158 divided by 54. 3 months of inventory, which is great. And then the median sales price and the home values are within my AVM. Okay, and so that zip code looks good. So let's go ahead and start a list here. We'll put it here, top zips, and we'll do 46410. Now I'm assuming you're local to this area, Greg.
Yes, this is my area. I've been investing in about 20 years. Yep.
Okay, so tell me about why are these zip codes like this? Do you know why 404 it got weird values? What's going on?
It's a huge tax sale area. This area we have a lot of tax sales. It's almost would mirror like Detroit, some of your other areas. So you understand why that number is at 1,000. So there's a lot of transactions in that area.
So this is probably an area that's really high rental demand then, is my guess.
Yes, very high.
Okay. So this is where we want to know that, and we want to understand that, because like I probably don't want to pull data there, because I'm not going to make no money marketing like on return there, most likely. I mean, I could just buy them from the auction. I don't need to go market directly to that area. I could just buy it from auctions, and there's probably a lot of other ways I can get deals there rather than direct to seller outbound. However, these areas here seem like to be more of the established kind of areas where I want to spend some of my time and energy. Something I want to definitely point out here is looking at these other zip codes down here, like this 46341, you can see that it has a much higher median sales price, but we're not tracking any monthly investor transactions there. And this could be because there's more new construction, maybe newer houses being built there, or something like that, right? It's not to say that there's nothing, but if we're not catching it, then it's a little bit less likelihood. To me, looking at this this market right now, what I'm seeing is these 3 zip codes, these 2 up here. I don't like any of the ones under 100,000 in value. You got a couple here. So let's do it like this. We're gonna look at this one, 46140 or 46410. This one's got 55. This one's got 58. So then we'll go 46307. 46307, and then we'll go 46342. All right, so those would be like my top 3 zip codes, because they have a little bit higher price points. I don't like, if I come up here and I look at or was it like this one, and like these 2, these would be good too. I mean, the 155 and 178,000 are still within our range. But if I was to, let's say, filter by the top 3 zip codes, and it was like, say 10,000 properties, I'm not going to add these two in there as my top 3 because I'd rather put myself in a position to be able to make more money from the deal. If I'm marketing to a $307,000 median sales price area, I know that I can make a 30K wholesale off of 307 grand. It's a lot more difficult to do that off of a $150,000 property. It's not impossible. We do it a lot out of Duval County. It's a very similar kind of price point to what we do mostly in Duval County. But we don't want to only, market to the lower cost areas because then we're doing a lot of work for a little bit of return. So we want to try to stay in that upper echelon if we can. So we want to get up to at least 5. So we're going to go ahead and add these two in here as well. 46323, I think is what that says, and 46324. So we'll kind of have those 5. Now we also do have a few over here that aren't bad, like this one here still within our buy box, 46405. But that looks like the only other one that's within our price range buy box that we have. What about one of these over here? Now this could work. These areas could be okay too. There are less investor transactions, but there's still plenty going on there. This west side here can still totally work for me. And I would be okay with adding those in if I needed more records. And maybe I'd rather add those, like 3 of these in and remove 2 of these. You got to kind of make that kind of decision on your own, especially someone who's already been there. You're going to know what you'd rather deal more in. In our concierge, I would take like your top close. I'd take your last closed deals, your leads that you're generating. We would figure out which ones would be the best. But for now, let's base it off of strictly investor volume so that we can have a higher likelihood to wholesale deals. All right. So we're going to keep it with that. Then we do the same thing at the neighborhood level. I'm not going to go through this because of time. But what we do is we go through each neighborhood in these areas and we try to find the top neighborhoods that have the best price points that match our criteria. And so if we're looking down here, we see like Merrillville, Northwest, 13 investor transactions, 225,000, 1 month of demand, basically. Really good little neighborhoods here. And if I was to filter by just these neighborhoods in SIFT Map, I'll just do one as an example here. We'll go to SIFT Map and we'll just add this neighborhood as a filter. We can see how many properties meet our base requirement here of 7 years of ownership. Inside just that neighborhood alone is only 433 properties. So what we can do is we can start adding in, like, let's just say I wanted to send, $2,000 a month in mail. It's like, okay, well, let's get to, about 3,500 or 4,000 properties in those top neighborhoods. And I'm just going to cherry pick. I'm going to make a list of my top neighborhoods and I'm going to figure out how can I build a buy box to just those neighborhoods that have a fair amount of investor activity and they're proving to be a location that would yield me a nice return on my money. And it's not like I'm looking at it like, okay, well, if I can get a deal out of there every month, because that might not be realistic. But what would be realistic is getting a deal out of there. Oops, that was right, though, the one I had. What would be realistic is getting a deal out of there every quarter, right? And adding that to, that revenue annually to my business or that rental portfolio annually. So you want to build out your top neighborhoods as well, okay? And so I'm just going to grab at least one more neighborhood, maybe in another location here. 14 investor transactions, 3 months of demand there. Ooh, this is a good one. I like this one. Days on market's nice and low. All right, so let's just add those 3 because we'll kind of use that later. Now we can look at our zip codes plus our base. So let's go back to SIFT Map here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom out back to the county. I'm going to search the county and just get the county level here. And let's filter actually just by our 7-year base. And I'm going to add the zip codes. So I click my more filters. I'm going to add my zip codes in here. So we got 46410. We got 46307. We got 46342. 46323. And 46324. Okay, and so that's our top 5 zip codes. We're going to click apply. And that gives us 16,000 properties in our top zip codes plus our base. Okay. So, I mean, that's obviously plenty of, let's go ahead and move this. Let's move these down real quick so we have it all in a row here. That's plenty of records to start getting deals out of for a long time, especially if we start looking at some niches. And so we got 16,000. So we go from 243,000 records in the total county down to 40,000 our base criteria, down to 16,000 inside of our top 5 zip codes. And again, maybe I want to add a little bit more, and that's fine. Maybe I want to, send mail to $10,000 of mail a month. Then what I would do is I would just add in this case, I would add in this 19, 75, 73, and 11 and 03, right? I would just add these ones in here because there is investor transactions happening there. I mean, a fair amount of them too. It's not like they're not bad. I mean, the lowest one is 20 over 6 months, which means you're at least getting 2 investor transactions a month, right? 20 divided by 6, 3 investor transactions a month. I don't know that I direct mail that or not, because it might be $1,500 a month in direct mail and it might not have the ROI, but I definitely cold call it. Okay, so 16,000 properties there. So let's now look at, just for sake of the example, let's look at those top 3 neighborhoods here. So we're going to remove the zip codes, and I'm just going to stay filtered by the county, and I'm going to add the neighborhoods here. Merrill Northwest, Merrill Northeast, and East. Okay, cool. All right, let's see how many records exist in just those areas. 2,000, 1,600, right? So we just do our top neighborhoods. We can see that now that's 1,600. And so I could definitely add a handful more of neighborhoods. But again, now we see we can go down from 16,000. Okay, let's cold call all those to, okay, let's send mail every month. Let's spend $700 a mail to these 3 neighborhoods every month, because if I can get even one deal out of there a year, 1,700 times 12 times let's say 6, it'd be 12,000 a year in mail. To say I wouldn't get a deal out of that area would be very, very slim, right? Like, you definitely have a return on your investment in those top neighborhoods. So I'm really bullish against neighborhoods, but it's not just because of direct mail. The other reason I really like it is because now I can add distressors to it. So let's go ahead, in this case, let's just see how many obituaries have been filed in that area right now, out of curiosity. Not very many, actually. 7 years of ownership, very few. So either they already sold or we don't meet the criteria. So I wouldn't add that one. What about senior owners? 355. It's a pretty good percentage, 355 out of that. I could do senior owners and absentee. So we could look at absentee criteria. So let's scroll up and see absentee. Yes. Click apply. 21. So in those neighborhoods now, I'm able to say, okay, well, I can go door knock 21 people, right? I could send direct mail maybe to just the 250 senior owners or whatever it was, and it was 350 seniors. And then I could cold call all 1,600, right? So even within the neighborhood, I could then start breaking down the 1,600 people in a neighborhood to a prioritization of effort. Like, okay, direct mail all seniors, and then door knock all the, you know, absentee properties or whatever, right? And so that's a big piece of what I want to make sure people are doing, is going into these different neighborhoods and plucking out opportunity, and create, you know, a farm for the week, right? And then just cold call, you know, whatever your base is. All right. So now let me see. Do I have to log out to have access to the AI score now, or would I be good?
I think you
Um,
may just have to refresh.
All right, let me refresh and see what happens here. So I'm going to refresh. We're going to step back and we're going to look at just AI scores here. And then we're going to go back to now our sold properties to enhance this. Okay. So I'm going to do 7 years of, actually, let's just do this. Let's clear our filters and then we'll just do our base again. So at 40,000, let's add 40 or more AI score to the equation. Ah, crap. I do have to log out. Okay. Well, I already got my presets, so it doesn't really matter. So let me log out. Log back in.
Where do you guys get the obituary information?
We curate it. So search Lake County, AI score, 40 or more.
Tyler, I think I may have added it to a different account. Which email are you using?
Oh, you added it. Yeah, the Tyler at Florida Cash Rose. I'm
Okay.
not Tyler Siri. Yeah, you can
One
remove it
second.
from that one. That's the actual business account. Okay. So she'll add that and we'll look at it. So in the meantime, let's do the sold property. So remember, I said sold properties is your ability to reverse engineer what your competitors are doing in that market. So we know where they find, you know, investor activity, but what are they finding activity? Like, what are they finding value in? And so what I want to do is even if I'm not paying for an AI score, okay, what is a predictive AI score for the off-market stuff? It's us looking at 1,800 different data points and us trying to build out from that a model and predicting which properties are likely to sell over the next period, you know, X period in time, 6 months, 3 months, whatever. And what we can do is we can look at our sold properties and we can actually check the accuracy of that. And as you can see in Lake County, Indiana, there was a total of 4,600 investor or just transactions in the last 6 months. We flagged 1,400 of those as investor transactions, and 1,180 of those had over a 40 predictive AI score, which is 83%, which is fantastic. What we do want to do, because we know that there's a lot of single family residents predominant there, we're going to change our property type to just single family residences, and that will adjust it just a tad bit. And what we do now is we look at our top patterns. We notice that 51% of properties are free and clear. So we know that, hey, as long as we're in equity data, we're in a good position. 30% have high equity. That means that 80% of properties have more than 30% equity, right? 28% were absentee owners and 22% were senior owners across the whole county. 8% low income, 7%, which is pretty high for vacant properties, and then 4.5% are pre-probate, which is typically like a death certificate, and then you have bad credit. So we're seeing a decent amount of stacked relationship here. And so what we might want to do when we look at our sold properties, and we're starting to see, okay, there's a decent amount of distressors here. We can filter by that whole county in 7 years of ownership. Let's turn on our sensitivity mode so this stuff don't block us at all. We'll just do partial. And then we'll just go down to our homeowner and property distressors and just choose all of our stacked pro distressors and then click apply. And that gives us 1,500 properties across the whole county that have multiple distressors on it. But what we know for certain is that some of these zip codes you probably don't want. And so I would want to narrow that down. And the only reason I say that is because of some of those areas that have very low purchase prices, but if they're just auctions, you know, maybe it's fine. If they're fully dilapidated, like this one here says estimated value 160, is that the home? You know, I don't know. Looks like that might be the home. So, you know, we'd have to use a little bit of our local knowledge to kind of look at some of these properties and decide, you know, if this is in that zip code, this one's got 100 off-market AI score. These guys are pre-foreclosure, senior owners, and owner occupied, and it's got a 100 AI score. So this is really likely to sell to an investor. And this looks like a pretty nice street. I have a hard time thinking this is a zip code that I'm gonna unblur my stuff. I can't stand not being able to see what 46323. Okay, so that's in one of our zip codes. So you would be marketing to this person in our criteria. So so yeah, you can just basically look at your stacked list, and this is a whole nother opportunity where, you know, you can filter by just the people that have multiple of these distressors, okay? Or you can do a combination of only one or two of these distressors, you know. But if I was to just do my county with just stacked, we got 1,500 properties. And so we can kind of throw that in here now under our county here and say county plus base plus stacked is 1,499. And now let's do the same thing, but let's change it to our unknown sale date just to get an idea of how many exist there too. Another 3,100, right? And so we can then do, you know, we got what, 3, 4, almost 5,000 records that are on multiple distressors, pre-probate, senior owners, liens, low income senior owners. And if we add our AI score to this of over 40, that removes 1,000 of them and gives us the top 2,500. And based on our market analysis here under sold properties, 81% of the people that have over a 40 AI score sell to investors. And so you can see how we can start reducing all that. So please show how you stack this. Very easy. You just click on more filters, scroll down to homeowner and property distressors, and then you just choose stacked. And it's only going to give you properties that have at least 2 distressors on it. It doesn't care about equity. It doesn't care about any of that. It just have to have at least 2 distressors. In this case, I added at least 30% equity as a requirement, and I did unknown last sale date. And that was 2,500 people, which is an amazing, amazing little list right there. I mean, that's a great list. If we were to look at, go ahead.
I was just wondering, when you select like basically the AI score, and I usually leave any for the stacked, should you select 2 or more, or what's your thought?
So you don't have to do, like, if you're using AI data?
Yes.
Okay. So the only time I would do the stacked in here plus AI is to build a niche farm list. Because if I remove the stack from this and I just do 40 or more right now, if I do any and do 40 or more, it's 16,000 people, right? And so maybe I cold call the 16,000, but I only direct mail the 2,500, right?
Oh, okay.
It just depends on what you want to do. Like, you can cold call. If I'm going to cold call those 2,500 people, like, yeah, I could do that. Like, if I remove the AI from here, let's see how many stacked exist without the AI score. It's probably a fair amount. Well, no, it removed it by like 1,000, I think. It removed like 1,000 people from it. There's 3,100. So we got like 5,000 total stacked records with, you know, equity in them, single family residences with 7 years of ownership. I could always say at least 5 years of ownership if I really wanted to also get a little bit more. And that's fine for people that are only paying for like the expert plan or SIFMAP Pro. But if you have access to AI scores in the county, you get an extra superpower where we can, if I just do 40 or more and I only direct mail the 2,500 instead of the 3,100, I'm saving myself $500 a month right there alone. That's paying for the county's AI score, you know? So I think that if I'm going to be doing mail, I'm always going to be applying a 40 at least AI score to the equation if I have access to AI score. If I don't, that's fine. Once you get a deal or whatever, invest that money back into it. Patrick?
I just want to throw something out there. I was doing that 40 plus AI score, and then I went and looked at like the sold properties and realized that 20 to 40 score is almost half my market. So I was
Yeah.
really leaving out like a lot of my market. So what's the differentiating factor there? Like
Yeah.
why is that?
No, that's a great question. So this is a really, really good question. This is for anyone with AI data, especially, you need to know this response. Okay. What is the point of an AI score? That's the very first way to answer this question. And I'll use sold properties in his market in Lake County as an example here, right? So if I look at, let's go ahead and clear our filters and let's just do 7 years of ownership and apply a 40 or more AI score. Okay, so this is our base list, then we're going to applying 40 or more. That gives me 11,000 properties. Okay, now what is that doing for me? If I had 40 and now I go down to let's say 12,000, what it's doing is to market to 40,000 people effectively would cost me X amount of dollars. Let's just say if it's direct mail, just for simple numbers, it's direct mail, it's going to cost me $24,000 a month, right? To market to only 12,000 people, it's going to cost me only $7,200 a month. So it's going to cut my marketing costs by over 50% right there. So some people will be like, okay, great, you cut my marketing costs, but there's probably deals in those other 30,000. The answer to that is like, yeah, there is 100% deals in those other, 40,000. But if you look at the sold properties and you look at your 40 to 100 AI score, with the properties that sold to investors, 81% of those had over a 40 AI score on the record at the time of sale. And so what we're saying is that, okay, I go from 40,000 people down to 12,000 people, and I've now put myself in, I'm saving myself roughly 60% really in marketing costs, but I'm only losing 20% of the opportunity.
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe I didn't define it clear enough.
Yeah.
So on top patterns right there, where you can go down and select predictive AI
Oh,
score.
yeah. So we can look here. Yeah,
so
yeah.
like my market, like 30 to 40 score is 20% of my market.
Yeah.
And
So let me.
So I should be marketing to that 30 to 40 instead of.
No.
80 to 90 is only 5% of my market. Like, wow, what's going on with that?
It just depends. So that was
Okay.
my precursor to that, right?
Okay,
So now
okay.
let's talk about the 20 to 40 score. So if I was to look at his market, right, forget about the distribution here, because the distribution of how many records exist, there's always going to be more records. The sum between 40 and 100 will always be less than the sum below 40 to 0. Okay. And to illustrate that, let's look at in his market how many properties exist between 20 and 40. My guess right now, it's just a guess, is it's going to be probably double at least. It's probably at least going to be 24,000. Is just a guess. 15. Okay, so it's about the same. So if we go 10, we do 10. Oh, hold on. Let me do 39. Let's do 10 to 39. Okay, so it's a little bit less for him, but are we saying that there's no investor transactions here? No, because if we come in here, we can just check how many investor transactions happen between 10 and 39. There was 227, right, that were predicted that sold to investors between 10 and 39. But in order to market to those people, it would cost me another $12,000, right? And so to market to the people between 10 to 39, it would cost me another $12,000, but I'm only getting myself in front of, 200 transactions versus 1,000. If I have the budget to market between 20 and 100, then by all means, we can do that, right? But in all reality, most of the time, it doesn't make much sense because you're spending a lot more money without the likelihood that you're going to get an investor transaction from it. And so that's what the AI score is. It's the balance between trying to use the AI score to get you in front of people that are most likely to sell while spending the least amount of money to do so. And so it's not to say that you should only market to 20 to 40. In a perfect world, you're marketing to all 243,000 people. The question is, in which way are we doing that, right? And how do we segment out the data to where we're spending the least amount of money on the highest amount of records with the most amount of money to the smallest amount of records where those records deemed worthy enough to spend a more expensive marketing strategy, if that makes sense. So, for example, like we have a lot of customers that they send direct mail to 40 and above, but they still cold call between 20 and 40 because there is investor transactions that happen there. Less than 20 very rarely has investor transactions. Like it's a lot less than 20, but they still happen. Oftentimes, these transactions less than 20 are happening through TV ads or other strategies that are not direct to seller. They are very opportunistic. They're very hard to target, and you might as well be calling the whole county at that point. And it just probably doesn't make much sense for most people. So it really depends on your county. But this distribution range can be confusing because look, like in his case, between 90 and 100 is 16.9%. Between 20 and 30 is 13%. If you go to my market in Florida, if we go to Pinellas, over the last 6 months, mine's like yours, like 40% of it's down here, right? I got very little up here. But all of our closed transactions on average are over 70 AI score. In fact, I think our average lead AI score right now is a 63, if I'm not mistaken. I have to re-verify that. But I'm pretty sure our average lead AI score is a 63. And our closed transactions, actual closed ones, all of them are above a 70. I forget where the mean is in that, but and we don't, the way that we use AI scores is we enrich our data with it. I don't do bulk marketing personally right now. We do very targeted. So we'll go into a neighborhood, which is kind of, this works for the transition here into how can you create even stronger farm areas. What I do is I grab a 70 or more AI score and I go to my top neighborhoods or top zip codes. So let's just grab this zip code instead of the neighborhood. So I go to the top zip code, I grab 70 or more AI scores, and then I add another parameter like 15 years of ownership and absentee, for example. Right? So we do a random criteria. We do this on Friday evening. So there's 45 records. And what we'll do is we'll say not in my account. In this case, I don't have any Indiana data in my account, so it doesn't matter. We'll grab these 75, we'll add them to our account, and then we have a tag that's for farm. And that over the weekend, my data team will go through and gather as many numbers, basically deep prospect. We try to keep it around 20 records. They'll deep prospect those 20 people, and that is a farm list for my team starting Monday morning. So after they call through all their first to market data, we then farm call the county that we focus on, and we rotate it. Each week of the month, we choose a different county to focus on in our market. Oftentimes, we're choosing the zip code or the neighborhood based upon where we know our buyers are being most active in, that like our verified buyers that we sell to. And this, I mean, dude, it's money. And we have some users doing this and just ripping with it. And once we do that, if we've proven an area, what we'll do is we'll save that filter. So we'll save a new filter and we'll call it like 70 plus AI top zip. This is a lake, and then I'll do the zip code 46410, and then we'll enable auto add, and we'll confirm it. That way, anytime a new record pops up that matches this criteria, it'll automatically download into that farm filter, so that we just continue then to hit that criteria. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to go about it. And so you kind of combine your niches. So when you're using sold properties and you're looking at those AI scores, there's just something to keep in mind. If you have the budget to dip down lower, then do that. But just because the AI score has more AI, it is more normal to have lower AI scores predominant in a market, because only a certain amount of people in that market should have a high AI score. The reason why his area has more in that upper area, he already answered, and that's because there's a lot of zip codes that are like Detroit style zip codes. So you have just a relatively distressed market in some of those areas, which is causing a lot more higher AI scores than lower AI scores. But the most typical, the highest percentage is between 20 and 39. That's typically the highest percentage of records, but it ends up being the most amount of records, which defeats the purpose of kind of using an AI score. Does that make sense, Patrick? Did I end up answering it?
That absolutely does, because I'm looking at it right here. So from 10 to 40, I have like 365 transactions predicted, but from 40 to 100, there's 1165.
Yeah.
So I can get
So
in
it's
front
like,
of more people cheaper.
exactly. You got it right.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Thank you.
it's what's so amazing about sold properties is like we're the only platform that has it like this. We're willing to actually put our AI score out in front of like you to be scrutinized. Like you can literally just go to the records and filter by the criteria. Let's go ahead and add back in our property type single family. And you can look, what was the score when it closed, you know? I can click on the investor transactions and I can see what was the scores when the properties closed and what was the distressors, right? And so this is where now I like to try to create little pockets, okay? How many people we still got here with us? 38. You guys are rock stars. This one's a big one for me, okay? And this is like, this is how you take that like delving deeper into like neighborhoods and stuff to the next level. So we're gonna use his area as an example, but I want to use mine as well then, because I have data in my account. I'm going to switch over to my actual production account that I use. And I want to show you guys deals that literally we lose all the time. And it's how I know that doing a strategy like this works well, because it's allowed us on average on a weekly basis. We're getting a contract a week right now on average. Like last week we locked one up like Friday night from this exact strategy. And it's just going into those areas where we notice we have records that we're not getting a hold of, but then giving the criteria in SIFMAP, adding an AI score range to it or adding a distressor range to it, downloading it as a priority and just focusing on it. So we have like think of it like a all hands on deck, like Friday afternoon, everyone comes together and we all focus on like these few records to get in contact with. It's kind of like a game. So, all right, this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna look at our distressors here. On the left-hand sidebar, we're gonna look at the amount of investor transactions. We're already filtered by single-family residents in those zip codes or in that area. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add the zip codes to the equation, and when we start adding our top zip codes from our market analysis, in his market, I have a feeling the prediction score is going to drop a little bit. Maybe it'll increase. In most markets, it's actually going to increase because you're eliminating the areas that have less investor transactions that are crappier areas. And so you're going to see your prediction rate will increase if you chose your zip codes right. Not all the time. It's usually, it might go down a little bit sometimes. But in his area, there's a lot of investor transactions and probably a lot of high AI scores in those areas that we really don't care about. And so we could see a drop here. I don't really want to go below 50% though. Okay. So let's add 46421. Pretty good. 70% still fantastic. Let's add our rest. 56. So that zip code, meh, little bit of a drop. 62 brought us back up. Still looking good. Fantastic. Like we ended at a 70. That's freaking money. But look how many investor transactions we just lost because of those zip codes that we don't necessarily care about. What we can do here is we can add in, let's go ahead and, hold on. I want to add in this, want to add in some of those zip codes that he had. Over here. So I want that one. Want that one. Want that one. That one. That one. That one. All right, so let's just add a few more of these in and let's just kind of see where we end up at here. So we do like our top 10 zip codes instead of our top 5, basically. Okay, and then I might, want to remove this zip 307. Actually didn't have too much of a change, so we can keep it in there. Okay. All right. So we can bring that down now and bring this back over. Okay. So we have the zip codes. We have our top zip codes. We reduced our total amount of investor transactions. But remember, that's because we're only looking at like 24,000 records or something like that, right? We were looking at more than half of the amount of records we were looking at before because we went down to the zip code level. Okay. We still have between 40 and 100. And I want to now look at the total amount of investor transactions at 481. I'm going to go to my advanced filters. And I just want to go to my distressors here, and I want to add in a distressor to the equation. So what I'm trying to figure out is what is the distressor that's actually converting to the most investor transactions? I don't know if this is a notice of default state or what it is, so I'm not going to choose foreclosures there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to like low income and bad credit. So let's do low income first and then click apply. 36, right? So if we do 36 divided by, was it 481? That's 7% are low income transactions, and it's an 80% prediction rate. So if I was to go to SIFMAP right now, I'm like, okay, I want to be very specific about what I'm doing here. What I can do is I can add all my zip codes in here, and it's going to be a very low amount of records. You know what I mean? It's not going to be very many. I don't care about the year built in this scenario. I don't care about the years of ownership in this scenario. I'm really going to the pain point that's converting, okay? Because if they're converting, it might mean I need to figure out how to close more deals, but what it doesn't mean is that I may have to increase my viability in how to do a transaction on the situation, right? But they're definitely closing either way. And so I'm going to go ahead and add these zip codes back here again. I should have saved it as a preset. 46410, 46307, 46342. I'm only going to add these 5, not the other ones. 46323, 46324. Okay, so we add all those. And then I'm going to go to my homeowner and property distressors, click the drop down and do custom, and then include low income. Okay, and then scroll down and click apply. 372. So what that means, and I put all 10 in here, but let's just say it's not, is yes, it's 7% of the total amount of investor transactions. Okay, the total amount of transactions was 481. Okay, 36 investor transactions out of 481 is 7.5%. But if you do it to the total marketable properties of 372, you do 36 divided by 372, it's 10%. Right? And so basically 372 properties, but out of the total amount of properties in that zip code, it might be, say, 20, all those zip codes. We know at minimum it's 16,495. It's probably closer to like 25 or 30,000 total properties. 25 to 30,000 total properties in these zip codes had 481 investor transactions. Go down to the low income, it accounted for 7% of the investor transactions. You go down to the amount of properties that exist in that distressor, 361, divide that by the amount of, let's even say 25,000 properties, it's 1% of the properties have low income, but it accounted for 7% of the investor transactions. This is a really hard thing to explain, so I'm hoping it makes sense to where what I'm saying is that if I was just to go to those zip codes and do the look to see which transactions had a high percent, or which distressor had a high percentage of investor transaction conversion, I could market to 372 people and put myself in front of 36 investor transactions. Does that make sense if I say it like that? Yeah, we're reverse engineering the problem to find a very small amount of people to get in front of everywhere. Direct mail, cold calling, door knocking, deep diving. We're doing the whole thing. And you want to do this to like 3 to 5 transactions, different distressors, and so what you end up having is you have this, this hierarchy that you're building here where you understand how this all pulls together. And of course, we kind of went around a little bit of everywhere here to kind of, explain some things and get into some nitty gritty. But actually, I'm adding an AI score of 40 or more on that too, by the way. So not only do they have a 40 or more AI score, but they're also low income. If we were to remove the AI score here, it's not very, actually, it's still 376 properties. You're only eliminating like 20 properties less than a 70 or 40 AI score. So we can do this to the niche amount of records, but for many people, you want some larger, ones to cold call, some direct mail campaigns. You want to scale the business, right? And as you scale the business, you need more records. And so it's good to start adding, those 16,000 base, add the 40 or more AI score, and have those 8,000 people that you're calling and direct mailing and being consistent with, okay? So if I want to download these into my account now, it's very simple. All right, and we're just going to, I'm going to clear this out and just do the 7+ years of ownership, and let's do 70 or more AI score. That gives us 5,000 people, okay? I'm going to select all of these. In fact, let's do it in the top zip code that we like. We'll do 46410. Click apply. 335 properties with over a 70 AI score in our top zip code. with our base criteria. Okay, so we're going to select all these, add to account. I don't need to add any sort of list to it because it's already going to add all those. Remember that. I am going to add a example here. Example market analysis. Okay, and we'll just click add. All right, and then I'm going to click add properties to account. Boom. And then I can look at my activity and I can look at my uploads here and I can see that it's processing that upload. Got 10% added already. Now it's done. Okay. And so if I go to my records page now, go to my filter records, I can just filter by the tag in this case. Example market analysis, click apply, click all, and there's my records. They're going to continue to populate here on the front end. But so there's my records, right? And I like to focus my clean data. I can then select those properties, skip trace them, and do whatever I want to do, right? Export them for cold calling. And what's cool is on the right-hand side here, you can see 6, 6, 6, 5, 5. If I click on this record, vacant, senior owners, pre-probate deceased, low equity, liens, absentee owners. This is a money property. If I click on my additional info, has a 95 AI score. Open up in SIFMap. Looks like it's like a townhouse or something kind of property. This is one of the ones, ironically, with a little bit lower equity in it. But if we look at the history and we look at the loan amount in 2024 was $219,000. 251 now. So yeah, this one would be a little bit harder, but there's some equity there. You could list it and sell it for sure. So you can kind of see how it adds all those lists to it. And now we have a perfectly marketable record. They're an absentee owner. I can skip trace this and start calling it right away. And I narrowed down to like the creme de la creme that was in my account just now. 70 or more AI scores in the market. So this is a really nice list. Pre-foreclosures, owner occupied, low credit score, liens, high equity, bankruptcy, and 100 AI score. Open it up. That's a perfect little property right there. Okay. So that's how you download to your account. As far as making a flow for those, there's a lot of ways to do that, right? As you know, that's a much deeper conversation. Once you get in there, creating the actual flow here for, records that have never been skip traced, records that have been cold called. There's a lot of ways to do that. But what I do want to show you guys is, let's just say I wanted to download those 7 years of ownership, or let's do that 70 plus AI score. And I want to now make sure that I am downloading these records into my account every single month. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I guess this is that one zip code, but we'll use it as an example. We're going to click configure. We're going to click edit and make sure that it's on auto enable. So we have it auto adding into my account. And I'm just going to add a tag here. We'll do example market analysis to these ones and click confirm. And then I'm going to go download those records like I just did the other ones. In fact, look, they're already in my account because they were already part of my other list. Okay, so that's perfect. So what I've done is I've downloaded the initial data set in my account. I've then enabled auto add. What I want to do now is I want to make sure that I'm automatically downloading any sold properties to my account. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my filter. I'm just going to go Lake County, and then I'm going to do single family residences. And I'm going to say, I want to only see properties that are in my account. So show only records in my account. Okay. And I'm going to click apply just to show this. So there's the 335 properties I downloaded that are in my account. So now I'm seeing those in SIFMap that I've downloaded to my records page. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want to make sure that if the last sold date, and let's just do since June right now, we'll just say if it's since June moving forward, and the sales relationship is an unrelated party, meaning they sold to somebody other than like a deed transfer to my family. Let's say the sales price is more than $1,000 to, protect ourselves even more. Right now it's 0. Why? Because we just downloaded all the properties and they had to have they had to have been owned for at least 7 years. And so we know that these people have not sold their houses yet. But tomorrow, the nationwide data might update to one of them being sold, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to save this filter and we're going to call it Lake County sold, recently sold. And I'm going to enable auto add, and I'm going to add a tag called recently sold. Okay, and then allow it to swap owners and then click confirm. So now every day on autopilot, I have done a market analysis. I've downloaded my initial data set. I'm automatically adding new records that meet the criteria. And then every single day, I'm also downloading new properties that have updated as sold into my records page. So what I can do now is I can create a filter. In this case, I'm just going to use a tag, and I'm going to do that example market analysis one. And I'm going to say I want it to include that tag, but I don't want it to include my recently sold, which isn't even in this account right now. So I need to create it because it hasn't added anything because they have not recently sold. So let's do that. So we're just going to create that tag. And then let's go back to our records page and do that again. So we're going to choose tags. And the only reason I'm doing an example one here, normally I would do like a list, right? And I might call it like hot lists or something like that. Like in the concierge flow, it's called like hot list and then your county name. But we'll do, that needs to populate. So let's do parameters and others. And we'll just do numbers no, skip trace no. And we'll just save that, and we'll just call this like example ready to skip, right? So if you're doing skip tracing, we can just do example ready to skip and save that preset. Let's just put it under, I'm not going to create a folder right now. Let's just save it like that, right? And then I'll do another one with phone numbers, yes, and then, numbers no. I'm not going to delve into all of this because this is like more advanced and it's a really different conversation unless someone has a specific question. And this would be like ready to call, right? Because this is stuff that has phone numbers. All right. Click save. So let's filter by the one that is example ready to skip. Click apply. Click all. We got our 328 records here. So we'll take those records now. And maybe on a monthly basis, I want to receive this file automatically to my email, like exported. Okay. What I can do is I can come into my filters here because maybe I want to send mail to these every month. I can come in here then and I can click on this export settings. I can name the CSV file and say I want it to mail monthly and I want it to start on the 6th of the month. And I want it to end, let's just say, I don't know, end of 2027. I click confirm. And now what's going to happen is automatically data is going to get downloaded from SIFMAP meeting the criteria of example market analysis, right? And then it's also going to be downloading all properties that have sold recently. And so because those are going to be removed from this, let's see if our tag has updated yet. It hasn't updated yet, so I can't add it. But we're going to suppress out the recently sold data. And so every month now, you have the ability to automatically receive a file that only has new records and old records and not properties that have sold recently. Okay? So it's really, really useful. So any of our AI customers that are used to that, that's why we built that, because they really wanted the ability just to have new AI data, old AI data that still matches the criteria automatically sent to their email so they can send their mail campaigns. Okay. Now, let's move to Pinellas County real quick. What time are we at right now? We're 22 minutes over. So I just want to show you guys an example obituary flow real quick. I'm going to go to my account. So let me go in there. Oh, I'm in incognito mode still. Let me do this. I want you guys to see this real quick. Dun, dun. Sensitivity mode. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Alrighty. So, SIF map. I'm going to go to Pinellas. In fact, I got a filter preset here already, I think. Yeah. So obituary, Duval, Florida, 75 to 600,000 in value. I already have a filter preset. I'm just going to select it. And so what I've done here is I have my Duval County market analysis, right? Our analysis between, say, 75,000 and 600,000 in value. Our property types, mobile home, townhouse, single family. I'm doing the homeowner and property distressor obituary properties. And then I'm doing 30% equity requirement and not listed already. Okay. So you can see right now there's 250 properties that meet that criteria. Look at these beauties. Tax delinquent obituary, and vacant. Let's go. Oh, look at it. I wonder why. AI score 99. So what you're going to do is you want to download these initially to your account, get your initial base, your obituary data. It's going to add an obituary property to those, right? An obituary. Well, it's going to add all the lists to it, including the obituary list, right? Oh, that's a good one right there. I got 100% equity. Look at that beauty. It's a nice house. 100% equity, but you can see driveway needs pressure wash, fence, pretty messed up. Outside looks fine overall, but I guarantee, it's not been upkept. And it's tax delinquent. Anyway, so you download your initial. Okay, so I'm going to open up. Well, once you download your initial, then you're going to go and you're going to enable auto add. Okay, so click on your configure, turn on auto add for that. And then what I'm doing is I'm adding a new obituary tag to it. That's preference. Because it's already adding an obituary list, I'm just adding a new obituary tag because I know that if it does that, it's going to be auto adding them. Right. And you see, since I've turned it on, it hasn't been a week yet. And so I don't have any new ones. But what will show is if I show like recently solds in Duval County, you can see June 12th, there was 6 properties that automatically downloaded as recently sold. 20 the day before that, 3 before that, 8 before that. And these are all records that were in my account, right? And so it'll look the same exact way. Here's on June 12th, 1 property was added there. So it'll be the same thing. You'll see just randomly like 20 new obituaries this week from, Duval County. All right. And so then on my records page, I have a very simple flow here called obituary FTM, I believe. Where's it at? FTM obituary. Okay. So there it is. I have FTM obit needs numbers. So if I select that, you'll see I'm filtering by the obituary list, which is automatically added when it gets downloaded. Numbers no, skip trace no. So if I click apply, you'll see we got 419 properties right now that are obituaries that have not been deep dived yet. So every obituary that gets downloaded, what you have to remember is that these are currently decedents, people that have passed away. Now I could skip trace these through SIFT, and I'm probably gonna get contact with most, like a lot of family members. But what I'm doing, feel free to steal this, select the decedent, grab their mailing address, skip trace the decedent, add all the phone numbers you find for the decedent. You can still skip trace them in SIFT, but then go use Smart Skip or Skip Genie, True People Search, and add every kin that you can find around that person. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to your message board and you're just going to add them here. It's going to be something like Timmy, son, and then the last four is 4455, for example, right? And then you'll do Sally, sister, 3365 or 68 or something, right? And then you're going to add their actual number here. So Timmy's might be 555 555 4455, right? And then we're going to add a tag to it called son, right? So you're going to go 4455 son and then click add. Okay. And then on the message board, it's going to be Timmy, son. So when my team goes to call that phone number, because obituary data, we're not going to throw it in a bulk dialer. We're doing sequential marketing, niche sequential marketing to that. So once I add all the phone numbers to that record and I'm done with it, then it's going to pop up underneath of my next filter, right? But when I call them and I see 4455, I'm gonna say, hey, Timmy, because I can look at the message board. I can have this open and the message board at the same time. And I can say, hey, Timmy, how's it going? This is Tyler. I was giving a call about whatever this address is. Right? And then continue the conversation. So that's how I recommend doing that. And then your data person is going to process all of those records. Once they have phone numbers, my next filter is ready to call, which is looking for all the records with 0 call attempts on them, and it has phone numbers. So right now we got 74 in here. See all the ones with phone numbers? And so right now these can get called. Right? So those ones can start getting phone calls to them. And then you go to the next one. Right? And you just process it like a normal first to market flow. So we're doing the same exact thing as we do with first to market or any bulk marketing. Honestly, this is the same exact flow we do with bulk marketing. This is we download a bunch of data. We have one filter that looks for stuff that needs phone numbers. We, send it for skip tracing, and then it goes to the next one. We send it for a first marketing attempt, then second, third, fourth. But with obituary, you can do it truly first to market through SIFMAP, which means you don't need a VA to go pull the data or nothing like that. Yeah, you've got to skip trace it still. If you want the best results, you want to go gather family member numbers because obviously these people have passed away. So anyway, I wanted to show that at the end of this, make sure that for those that were still here, you've seen that because the video on Facebook has crashed for some reason. Facebook doesn't want you guys to win. But then next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing a whole training just on obituary, the whole process, the whole flow. Let's real quick look at this. I'm curious what its zip codes were compared to what we had. Out of curiosity, really fast. 46410 to Claude was number 16. So I think that Claude's not going to do such a great job on some of those areas, but we'll see. 46409. And then we had 46406, 2305, 2008. I mean, none of these were in my top 5. Right? 2, 3. So 10 and 7. Where's 10 at? 10 was 16. That's there. 7 is 10. 42 is 12. 23. Did I type that down? 3, 2, 3. Oh, there it is. Number 3. And then 24 is 11. I don't remember what the other ones were for that other area, but the way that this works is, does it fit in the buy ban? It takes into account days on market, but there's one big thing that I'm doing here that can't really do through Market Finder or sold properties. Now, does it mean that you can't use those things and get success? No, I mean you 100% can. But what's cool about what I have access to an API for is I'm taking the amount of properties in each of the neighborhoods that exists. I'm taking the amount of investor transactions that have happened, and I'm looking at how many of those investor transactions are unique buyers. So for example, Hamilton East, that was one of our top 3 that we picked actually, and it's in its top 8 here. Look at, it has 1,700 properties total, 17 investor transactions, which means its capture rate is about 1%, which basically means that of the amount of properties that are in that market, 1% of them are selling over a 6-month period to investors, right? But then there's one more criteria, which I call the demand score. And what that means is, of the 17 monthly investor transactions, or I'm sorry, over the 6 months, how many of those 17 were not just like one mega buyer buying up a ton in that area? See, we want to make sure we're prioritizing the areas that we market to based upon our ability to sell it faster. And if there's only one buyer in that area and we're spending a lot of money, getting deals in that area, and it doesn't meet their criteria, now we're stuck in the water, having to tread, getting rid of this deal, right? And so I prefer to rank based upon the amount of investors in those areas. And on the right side here, you can see top zip code matches. And so East Hamilton, it's in the top 10 zip codes. It's number 3, 46323. So that means that that's a great neighborhood. Not only is it in the top zip code, but it's also a top neighborhood. And we can see those here. So number 1, 46409, 404, 408. So all these neighborhoods are also in the top 10 zip codes. So we may want to spend a little bit more time in that area. 46404. Was that one of the really bad ones though? I just want to look. I'm going to look at this very fast. It'll be the last thing we look at here. So I know we're way over. Indiana. The county is Lake. 46404. Where was that? Was that one of these? Oh, okay. No. Yeah, see, it's one of the ones where the median sales price was showing really low. But it's not looking at that. It's looking at the sales value. So it could still be a great location because the home value is there, but the sales price is really low. So Claude doesn't know that. When I've taught it that, I'm not having it look at the sales price. I'm having it look at the value of the homes. So maybe those areas are still great, but we didn't consider them. We were looking at these areas that didn't have what looked like a lot of that tax auction type purchases going on. So that's where every counter is a little unique, which is why with deep understanding comes the ability to manipulate, right? Okay. Anybody have any questions? I know we just covered a lot, kind of a little bit all over on that one, a tiny bit. I mean, we went deep in a lot of different places.
Yeah, Tyler, I got a quick question. I know earlier you were talking about, I have a pro account. I have the auto ad on my account, don't I?
When you say pro, you mean SIFMAP Pro or do you mean professional plan?
Professional plan, $4.99 I pay every month.
Oh, that's the expert plan. Yeah, you got that.
Yeah, I figured that. You said that earlier. I probably said the wrong thing. Okay.
Yeah, you got it. So actually, if you have that too, then in fact, I have your email you sent. So what I can do is actually I'll show you guys this real quick. What just happened in his account? Let's see if it did it. Let me open up a new window here. Let's go back to this account, and then I'll do impersonate, and I'm gonna impersonate you. And then we'll turn on sensitivity mode. Okay. Yeah, you're on the expert plan. And then if I go to SIF map right now and I look at your presets, you'll see it it automatically created it for you. So I'm automatically filtering by properties that sold. So in the last 6 months, properties, or let's see, when did it add the date range? January, probably. Yeah, since January, there's been 6 properties that have sold that are already in your account. We can look at some of those and see what they are. Looks like that might have been a investor. Here, let's just do this. Let's just, since they already sold, why do we care about their name? Let's just look. Yes, that one sold to In Flipping LLC. And then this one sold to Ford Brothers LLC. That one sold retail market. So 2 of 6 so far have been investors. Yeah, so it looks like 2 of the 6 were investors. But those automatically would have downloaded in your account and updated, those records. If it was set up back then. It's not now. So what I could do is what I should do here is I'm going to select these. I'm going to click add to account. And I'm going to add the recently sold tag to it. That way those properties get updated and you don't market to those again. Now, every single day, it's going to be checking, did any properties in your account sell? And if it does, it's going to download and update it with the recently sold tag. So you can press that out. And then it also created a buy box one here for Lake County, Indiana primary. So if I click the primary, this filter here, what it did is it created the price point between 125 and 475, property types, and then it also did the 7 years of ownership with the not listed and everything here, which is 15,000 properties. What it didn't do was add the zip codes in here, but when I send you this, I'm going to send you this this zip file here, and in that zip file is a filter preset guide, and that filter preset guide has a breakdown of your Lake County filter targets and which top zip codes and all that other kind of stuff that you could do in order to enhance that filter. In addition to that, what it did is on your records page, if you load your presets, you'll see there's a hot list folder now with a Lake County, Indiana hot list in there, which is basically filtering by records that meet that criteria. Right now, nothing's downloaded to the hot list. But if you did, you can put them there, and then you'd update this with your zip codes that you want to target if you wanted to. But I would just update this filter with those zip codes that you want to target, the Lake County one here, add your zip codes here, save this, download the initial records that match that criteria, and then turn on auto add so it automatically downloads any new ones.
Oh, wow. I like that. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Alrighty. Anybody have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question, Tyler.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, I have the expert plan. Do it.
Okay.
Are there any zip codes, AI zip codes included in that plan?
No, so AI doesn't go based off zip codes, it goes based off county.
Okay.
In order to get the off-market AI scores, you have to be on the an AI plan, and with the AI plan, you get one county by being on the AI plan. And then every other county after that is an add-on price of $497 per county. So yeah, at the expert plan, you don't have access to any of the AI data. You do have access to get an add-on on the expert plan for nationwide on-market AI score and nationwide realtor AI score, but the off-market specific predictive AI score, that's reserved to be on that AI plan and higher, which gives you access to all the other AI scores, the concierge, support, all that kind of stuff.
And what's the all-in payment up front instead of breaking it down monthly?
So if you were to do an annual plan for one county on AI, it'd be 12,500. So it's 12. The AI plan is monthly is 12,500.
Okay.
Right, and then every county on top of that's 497, and then if someone's getting one county and paying annually, it's 12,500, and then if people are going to get multiple counties and they're going to do annual, there's some options. So there's like ways to have like 5 counties and it not cost more than that. I think it's like, I want to say, I forget the exact breakdown. I have to talk to my sales guys, but it's basically there's some hierarchies. But for one county, it's $12.50 a month monthly, and then there's the $12.5 for annual. So you basically get like 2 months for free, on the annual.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. No problem. Anybody else? Elena went inside. She didn't last the whole time outside.
Yeah, it's actually not that hot outside. It's actually pretty nice here, but
Okay, cool. Well, if anybody has any questions, you know where to reach us. The top right corner of the chat, click talk to us. You also go to the help center, click on the quick start, I believe it is, and then you can watch the recordings of the lead management one, and these ones are all in there. And then if you do want to talk about AI data, feel free to book a demo. It pops up when you go to use AI. It pops up like right now on he doesn't have AI. If I click get AI, you can either just straight up upgrade from there, or you can book a demo on the pricing page, or feel free to message me on Facebook if you really have any questions, or use the help center. And then yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Don't forget to attend the bi-weekly next week if you want to implement obituary flows into the business as well. We'll get deep into it then. Okay, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and then we'll email that zip file for that Lake County then to you, Craig, as well. See ya.